I am Avon Collis, the CRM and Marketing Automation Specialist at Relevate and all-around good guy. I'm joined here today with Steve Sandor from Inspiring Business. Steve is a consultant that helps structure organizations and give them the ability to scale. Steve has worked for companies large and small and has done a lot of work internationally in places such as P&G. So welcome, Steve. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Avon. It's a great pleasure to be here.
No worries at all. And, you know, we were talking off air beforehand, and we're talking about like the first steps that someone would want to have in place. So is there a process? Is there any kind of framework that someone should have? What does someone have to do to scale?
Yeah, small businesses are challenged with resources, and one of the biggest challenges they have is that they're the master, if you like, of the business. And if you think about large organizations, the managing directors, the general managers, they have lots and lots of resources available to them. You know, they've got a marketing department, a sales division, an operations division, and then they can delegate some of those responsibilities or and accountabilities to those people. And that's really the mindset that the business owner needs to get into, you know, thinking about their job as the leader in that business, and start to be more strategic in their thinking as opposed to operational.
People can get stuck in doing everything in the weeds. You know, everybody goes, the CEO or the boss is everything from the janitor all the way up to the commander in chief. So should that still be true?
Well, you know, when you started your business and when I started my business, the biggest issue that I was worried about was whether I was spending money in the right place. And so, you know, you have that, I guess, the challenge of deciding whether your time is more valuable doing what your genius is, and whether you're prepared to trade that time with someone else that's their genius. And so what the decision that you have to make is whether you believe you're going to be able to generate a greater revenue or income from your investment of time, and then outsource that to a lower cost so that there's a profit in there. And that's the hardest thing for a new business owner, to trust themselves in their own ability, you know. So typically why a business owner gets into a business is they're really good at a technical aspect of their business, and they're looking at their boss and going, I could do it better than that. But we all know that running a business is not the technical part. It's the people, it's the administration, it's all of those components that take 15 years as to be in a general manager's position in a large organization. That's 15 years of knowledge. And so I think we need to, you know, be a little bit kinder to ourselves as small business operators, and trust in our own ability and trust in the people around us.
I think Elon Musk said it was something like baking a cake. You have to have the right ingredients or the right amount of everything to make it work. So that sounds pretty accurate, I think.
Yeah, and sometimes the cake comes out and it doesn't taste very nice at all.
Goes flat.
You have to throw it out. And then sometimes you forgot what the ingredients that you put in there because you're in such a hurry to make the cake. And so sometimes, you know, having a little bit of being strategic is, I guess, the key.
I was thinking the other day about, you know, you talked about how to value your time, and clearly I need a haircut if anyone's watching the video. But one of the things I thought was, that's so much time out of my day that I just don't have. So do I need to pay a couple extra dollars and have someone come here to the office to cut my hair? Like, would that give me an extra couple of minutes back? Or, you know, there's a lot of things about wellness and thinking and time and space, and, you know, maybe I should go and get that haircut because that's time out just to think about stuff, or to, you know, totally disconnect and do something else. Like, is there a framework for making the right decision in those sort of circumstances?
That's such an important point, because when a business first starts, we talk about the stages. So there's an early stage where the behavior is very frantic. You know, it's exciting, but there's also quite a good deal amount of fear involved in it as well. And there has to be an investment in that early stage. And so you'll see it in people when they start a new job or they start a new business. They're running around like, you know, like mad people, and they're forgetting things and they're rushing out the door, and then they come back 3 minutes later, they forgot their phone or their notebook or whatever. And that's you need to have that investment of time and energy, because otherwise it's a bit like taking an airplane off the runway. You know, you get halfway down the runway and you stop the engines. Well, you're gonna have to get to the end and go back and start all over again. So you have to have that pressure on to get the business off the ground and get it to, you know, 30,000 feet or 10,000 feet, and then you can back off a little bit. But whilst that frantic behavior is there, you do make mistakes. And so that the stopping and reflecting and reviewing and taking some time. Now that might be, you know, in the morning you do some mindfulness, yoga, meditation, or you just go and get a haircut, you know, and take that hour out of your day, or go, you know, or do some exercise, have a swim, break your day up. And then that slows the mind down, and that's where the creativity comes, when your mind is actually slow, not when it's going at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Well, I think there's definitely a fine balance. I mean, we've got, so I did yoga this morning with my wife and my 3-year-old on my back. So it was a little bit more intense than anticipated. And, you know, I think as far as, you know, frameworks in business, as far as I'm aware, there's, you know, a lot of micro decisions that lead up to one big outcome. And so, you know, for us, we've got 2 things. We've got 3 strategic priority areas that everybody knows to frame every decision around those things. And the other one is like our mentality of work. So we've got a percentage breakdown structure of our day. Simplistically, it's the 70-30 rule, but it's actually the 70-10-10-10. 70% client work, 10% working on yourself, 10% working on the business, 10% social, fun, working on the people. And by having that mentality, you know, we kind of give ourselves permission to go and have a team lunch, or, you know, have the Christmas party, and like, sure, we got no work done that day, but we're closer, we're more in sync, we're thinking about stuff as a team, rather than as individuals with their own little problems in their own little pod or bucket. Is that something that you agree with, or?
Yeah, and well, there's two areas there that I think are really important. One is breaking it down to threes, and for some reason in business, 3 just seems to be the ideal number. You can manage 3 things in business, and so you set those 3 strategic goals for the year, and then you break those down into, you know, objectives within all of that. You know, so that's really important. The other piece, which I guess you're alluding to, is that you actually care about what you're doing. So there's a purpose behind everything that everybody does, some for good, some for evil. But in business, you know, you have a purpose. But it's how you interact with your staff, and, you know, the culture that you're trying to create in your business needs to be a reflection of you, and the people who are in your business need to be aligned with that. So as a leader, not necessarily a manager, so anyone can lead. It's how you care for your people and you engage with them. So, you know, going out to lunch with everybody is just a nice way to say, I value you. You know, I think what you're doing is important to our total objective, and I thank you for doing that. And it's those little, you know, it's even a tap on the shoulder and saying, how you going? Because you've noticed something in their behavior which is not normal, and picking that up.
I've worked in a few organizations, large and small. So, you know, right from army through to sporting organizations and coffee shops and things. And if you think about, like, my measure of success, I guess from a leadership perspective, is when the team come up with their own genius, their own ideas, their own goals and things that they want to achieve to further the whole business. In fact, one of my team called up and said, hey, I think, a video interview on this would be really, really good. So we did that. We spent 40 minutes and we created some content. And totally, her idea. And I thought that was really great. So then I feel like I don't have to be the only one coming up with this stuff. So I think that's really good. And so a lot of that sort of speaks to, having, being able to trust those people that are around you. So what are some of the barriers that business owners have to trusting those people around them?
Yeah, it's usually them. We hear it often, get out of your own way. You're a, not to get too deep, but I think you do need to get too deep. Deep when you're a business owner is really being comfortable with who you are. So that emotional intelligence that you have of yourself, and that requires some vulnerability. And everybody looks at vulnerability as a weakness. Well, not everybody. There is a shift towards people understanding that vulnerability is actually a strength, because it means that you're in tune with your own feelings, directions, whatever. And sometimes business owners push away from that because it's a challenge, right? So I don't want my staff seeing me vulnerable. I don't want them to see that I don't know what I'm doing. And in fact, that gives the staff the opportunity to step into that hole, into that void. If you go, I don't have all the answers, I'm coming to you because I don't have all the answers. How can we work together to create this thing that we're trying to create? What's your genius that you can step into that? So the first thing is trust yourself, and then having really open and honest conversations with your staff. So, back in the when management first started, in the Industrial Revolution, it was master servant relationship. We've progressed, way beyond that. It needs to be now a adult to adult conversation that you're having with people. Sometimes you're not always happy with their behavior, and so I give it like it's like having children, but not a child-parent relationship. We, I've got children. I've got 4 wonderful children. I know you've got children, a child, children, and we love them. We would take a bullet for them. Are we always happy with their behavior? No. But do we love, just because they behave badly, we don't send them to the next door neighbor and say, here, it's your problem, not mine. No, we love them just as much. And in a work environment, you can't say I love you, but what you can do, without getting arrested, of course, but what you can say is I value you, but your behavior in this situation is unlike you. So I need to have a conversation with you about what's going on, because that gives them the opportunity. One, it shows that you care for them, but it opens up the conversation then. Oh yeah, look, I've got these issues at home. Right, okay, well, that's a home issue. I can't help you with that home issue, but now that I'm aware of it, we can manage our way around that, right? So what's the best way of doing it? Again, coming back to that whole essence of caring about your people. And as you become vulnerable and open to those conversations, your staff will then become open to you. And then that's when you trust each other. It's the like, no trust. I like somebody, I've employed you. I've got to know you because we're working together. I can see what your behavior is, what you're trying, how you're committing to the business. And eventually we get to trust each other. And that's not an overnight success. That takes effort and time and persistence and intention.
Yeah, I think as soon as people feel trusted, they tend to want to do more and take on more, and like even just like having an eye open for opportunity, or you know, taking the initiative. And I think that you've got central control where everything flows through one sort of being or person, and then you've got mission control where you delegated responsibility out to that area or to that group, and you give them a freedom of movement in that zone. You know, you give them certain parameters. You know, don't break the law, don't run us broke, and you kind of trust them with an essential component of the business, and they want to succeed. They want to drive it home, and they really, really, really want to get the pat on the back at the end of the day. And I think that people overlook that. You know, like, give someone a chance to win, give them a chance to fail, maybe try and minimize the impact or the risk. But yeah, absolutely. So what are some of the systems and processes needed to manage this scale?
Yeah, and you raised a really, a really important point in that whole analysis. The first is, mistakes are just decisions that were made with not enough information.
Mm.
So, 2020 hindsight is that you look back on a decision, had I known this, I might have made a different decision. So and then the second point was, a lot of owners feel as though they don't want to give away control because they're going to lose control. And so the way to give the owner some confidence around the boundaries that their staff are held to are putting systems in place.
Mm.
And so that's then looking at the documentation, looking at the processes. So a lot of businesses have developed their systems over time, and they bolted on a balcony and and another bedroom, etc., to the house. And sometimes the flow of the family doesn't work. So you need to then rethink that and look for efficiencies, and then put in place systems that are able to be scaled. And to do that in this modern day, you can't do it without a CRM, a customer relationship management system, but not one that is, just a bunch of emails that you drop newsletters to. It's the flow of process. It's when an invoice is raised, what are the processes? So starting from the marketing through to the sales, to the delivery, to the invoicing, having all of that in place and process, so that, and that takes some time, because small businesses are not great at documentation. I've only got 10 people. Why do I need documentation? Well, you need that whilst you can beta test it, whilst there's only 10 of you, because when you get to 50, it's too late.
Yeah.
You've made so many mistakes along the way. So yeah, it's really, it's important to have those processes in place. And then as you grow, you can then review those processes, and then it's scaling. So if you've got 10 staff, if you've got efficient processes in place, as your business increases by 10, 15, 20%, you don't need more staff. And this is everybody throws people at problems. To use Michael Gerber in the E-Myth, put a process in place and the problem goes away.
Yeah 100%. Like, I think that a lot of people go, oh yeah, CRM is, and obviously a topic near and dear to my heart. A lot of people go, oh yeah, it's emails, it's basically an online Rolodex. It should be a strategic element, like you're relating databases of information between each other. Like we've got asset records, we've got project client records. So say, for example, someone signs up as a customer, they tell us what's happening in their world. So, have they got a WordPress website? Do they have their emails on Outlook or Gmail? Have they got any integrations to some other platform? What are the red flags, pain points? We have a questionnaire, and then they fill it out for the larger projects. And then once they go through and answer that, we've got that context every time we work with them. So even just tech support, they pick up the phone, they go, hey, this is going on. And they're like, sometimes the answer you give them would be different based on whether they're on Microsoft or Google, and say, here is the answer for you, without having to go back and do give them a response, it's wrong, and then you go to check it, and all those sorts of things. And the other one as well being that, like we've got things on our suppliers that are, what quality rating are they? Have they agreed to terms and conditions? Like it's all of those other relationships. And then online forms are amazing. We've got forms for listing things on our website, which enable other people to update our information without us having to do the work. And, companies like Salesforce with the call center operations deflect 98% of questions through the help center and the customer community before it ever gets to someone doing some work. So they've doubled their productivity without increasing headcount.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm a mad advocate of systems and processes. You can tell by, well, you can't tell if you're listening, but I've got grey hair and I'm not a spring chicken. So I was around when, before email. And so, we used to send faxes, if anybody understands what a fax is. So I'm systems and processes have always been integral to my life, so that when I speak to a customer, I've got the information there, so that I've got a pretty good memory, but as they say, a blunt pencil is better than a sharp mind. And so being able to pull that record up when you're having a conversation with a client and knowing where they're at is like, it's so important to the relationship that you have with your customer. But it also means that your staff feel good about, because they're not looking all over they're not all looking all over the shop for the answer. And I think this is the biggest challenge that small businesses have. They start off with an Excel spreadsheet and a Word document and a Google email, or Microsoft email, and then they're bolting on everything. And to scale, you really need some controls around that, and you need to integrate all of those pieces. And that's, as I alluded to, sometimes it requires a little bit of re-engineering of your processes and rethinking your strategy. And again, it comes back to the point that you can't do that if you're in the business. And so as the leader or owner of the business, you need that time to be strategic and be comfortable outsourcing the operational part to the staff or consultants or coaches, whatever, and give you that space to be, more in the business development and idea space.
Well, in the a moment ago, you mentioned about that sort of knowledge management piece where you're providing those like how-to guides, those courses and things. And I think that's so critical. Like we've got before hiring the first person, I just recorded a whole bunch of Loom videos. And when I was flat out and I hired that guy, I didn't have time to show him how to do everything. So I went, go and watch those videos.
Yep.
He spent like 8 hours watching videos and he was effective from day one.
Yep.
And then, I've since built an online course and we hired 2 people in the last couple of days and I don't have time to show them how to do everything. So it shows them our culture. It shows them who we are, where we came from, why we exist.
Yep.
And, as far as having these courses, like you said, build the parachute jumping out of the plane, get something in place, improve it. By the time that you really, really, really need it, it's too late.
Yep. and here's a ninja hack. So if you want to get the process written, you do it. So if you've got staff, so if you're in an existing business and you've got staff, say, for example, there's an accounts payable and an accounts receivable.
Yep.
Get them to interview each other and get them to write the other job up.
Yeah.
And then what that does is, one, you get the job description and the process that's required for that job, but it also cross skills. So all of a sudden they have an appreciation of what the other person is doing. And you can do that, you can do that with salespeople. You can do that with, have the operations people interview the salespeople, so that you get some perspective. The other thing is that, as a owner, then what you can do is you can look at those and go, didn't know that they were doing that.
Yeah.
That's probably not exactly how we would like it to be
To go.
done. And then again, there's your opportunity to improve your processes.
And the value of somebody else writing it is that there's always a lot of assumed knowledge. Like I know when I write processes, and for this exact same thing, is I go, all right, and you do this, 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 and this, and I skip out like 4 or 5 things because I'm like, oh, well, of course, like if you're doing this, then that is just a given. But some people that was never a given. Like, you know, I can whip something up in 10 seconds because of the way I've been doing it forever. And someone else would go, I've got no idea where to start.
Yeah. What's a TLA?
Yeah. Well, look, I think there's a hell of a lot we can cover in the actual implementing. So we're going to save that for part 2. So if you're listening in, this is part 1, and part 2 is coming up. We're going to talk about how to implement some of the strategies that that help you build towards building that framework and those that scalability into your business. So for this episode, thank you very much for listening to Stephen Sandor from Inspiring Business. And thank you, Stephen, for joining us and talking about how to implement or how to think about the frameworks that that are needed to scale a business. If you'd like to connect with Stephen Sandor on LinkedIn, please search his name. Otherwise, the links will be available in the posts accompanied with this podcast on socials and in the blog. You can also visit his website at inspiringbusiness.net. Stay tuned for or the next episode on implementing the strategies in part 2. Thank you very much. Have a great day. You can learn more about implementing scalable systems in your business with our book, The Business Octopus, where you can learn how to give your business a brain and teach it to grow itself. You can get your copy from relevate.com.au/octopus. You can also find answers and ask questions in our online community at support.relevate.com.au.